What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking. Y'all, I have to go get myself together for this Beyonce show in a couple days, so I'm not gonna waste a whole lot of time. I'm just gonna get right into today's video. 15-year-old Morgan meets Brittney Metzers, and the two teens fall very deeply into their puppy love. They spend every waking moment together. They attend all of the school dances together, all of the local events. They are quite known for their sweet little romance, but no matter how enamored Morgan becomes with her first love, her father is never impressed. He makes it no secret that in some way that he can't quite put his finger on, Rodney just rubs him the wrong way. It's something about him that he just doesn't like. Morgan, however, loves Rodney. After graduation, they go on to move in together. They then become engaged. And at 21 years old, Morgan marries her Prince Charming. It's a really exciting time for her. It feels like dreams coming true because for years now, she's daydreamed of them taking these next steps in life. Now, after their wedding, Rodney inherits a large number of stocks. Unbeknownst to Morgan, Rodney comes from a very wealthy family. And out of all of the things that he had told her about him, this is something that he had, for whatever reason, left out. But whatever, it's not something, that she's going to complain about, of course. Once he inherits the stocks, he begins to spend hours every day working as a day trader. And it is not long before trading begins to stress him out. Whenever things are not going his way, he will become enraged and have these temper tantrums. He'd scream, he'd curse, yell, slam doors, and over time, these outbursts gradually become worse. Before long, he is punching holes in the walls, he's throwing things, and once Morgan goes in to try to calm her husband down, but instead, he directs his fury toward her and begins to yell at her and scream in her face for her to get out of his office. Now, these fits of rage, they do scare her. Not only is it the behavior, but the look in his eyes. She described him looking as if he wasn't there, like she didn't recognize him. Her husband, Rodney, his entire demeanor changed. And he'd oftentimes make it as though it's her fault that he was under so much pressure. He'd tell her things like he's under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure to keep up this lifestyle that he has provided her. Morgan also rationalizes his behavior by recalling how much his parents would fight. He had grown up with a lot of yelling inside of his household, so she figured that maybe he thought this was normal. And she didn't think that this was something that they could not work through, because aside from that, her husband is perfect and she is madly in love with him. She'll just stay away from him when he's working, and whenever she hears him stomping his feet and rolling his eyes upstairs, she'll just pretend as though she doesn't. When Morgan learns that she is pregnant, the two of them are ecstatic and even further overjoyed when they learn that they are having twins, a boy and a girl. Again, things seem perfect at first, and then Rodney has a new onset of troubling behavior. Once she has the twins, he is always complaining about their inconvenience to the lifestyle. He is annoyed by all of the responsibilities in regard to them as they become mobile. He becomes less tolerable of all of their messes and all of the noise that they make. He bans certain toys from the house that he deems too messy or too loud, like instruments, glitter, slime, Play-Doh, things of that nature. And as the kids grow older, Rodney goes from complaining and raging at Morgan about the children to actually raging and yelling directly at them. When he would get started, Morgan would take the twins, go into their closet inside of their bedroom, lock the door, and sits with them while he continues to bang on the outside of the door, screaming, yelling, and foaming at the mouth. Sometimes he would calm down within a matter of minutes, and sometimes they would be in that closet for hours. Morgan keeps noise-canceling headphones inside of the closet for the twins to wear to drown out all the noise from Rodney. One night, he is saying things that are so vile, and this goes on for so long. He's taking breaks, coming back and forth from the door, and she is not sure how long this is going to go on. She decides to take the twins to her parents' house for the night, so she leaves the closet with them, and right when she gets them into the car, Rodney comes into the garage with a gun. He walks up to Morgan, doesn't say anything, and holds it up to his own head in front of her, in front of the children. He does not say a word, and she is terrified that he's about to pull the trigger, so she closes her eyes to wait it out, but nothing happens. When she opens her eyes again, she sees that he has the gun down and he is walking toward the house. And to her, this is a very obvious threat that if you leave with the kids, this is what I'm gonna do. So instead of leaving, she goes back into the house with the children. Later on, he very calmly tells her that he wouldn't be acting like this if she didn't act the way that she did. Like, why would she try to take his kids from him, etc. As the children get older, his antics just become even more weird. One day, he's walking up the stairs behind Morgan and they're arguing. Once the twins come out of their room, he like fake falls backward down the stairs and it's like, why would you push me, Morgan? OMG, you're so dangerous. And the kids rush to his side like, oh my goodness, mommy, how could you? And it's just a whole mess. She is basically like, Rodney, really, like, no one pushed you. She's telling the kids that she did not push him. He's crying, the kids are crying. They're like, mommy, how could you? It's just a whole mess. And this is yet another situation where he later attempts to gaslight her by making her think that she was actually at fault. Rodney often brings the news and current events to Morgan's attention. And one day he informs her of a story where a woman had been attacked. And he asks her how would she respond if someone broke into their home when he wasn't there. He then gives her a play-by-play course of actions that she should take should she find herself in such a situation. He tells her that if she's tussling with someone being attacked, to make sure that she scratches their arms to get some DNA under her skin, to also look at the arms to see the skin color of the person, eye color, if there's any distinctive tattoos that she could take note of, all of these tips, right? And then he tells her that if they attempt to do anything sexual to her, that she should just oblige and let it happen, because if she fights back, it'll just prolong it and make it worse for her. Now, she finds this to be a very odd conversation to be having, because even though they had started with the story of the woman, it still felt very random. But all in all, she believes that her husband is more than likely just trying to protect her, you know, as husbands tend to do. Besides, he would often express his disdain for people who hurt women and children. So then again, maybe it wasn't so random. Even with Rodney's outbursts, he had never become physical with her and she never felt physically threatened by him. But it is not long before that changes. They attend a friend's birthday weekend as a couple, and Morgan is looking forward to spending quality time with her husband without the children. A party takes place on a rented boat. Everyone is drinking, partying, having a great time. Now, once the sun goes down, Morgan heads to her and Rodney's room for the night because she's really tired. But moments after she gets to their room, Rodney bursts into the door. He's very upset and accusing her of embarrassing him in front of his friends. She attempts to explain to him that she just wants to, lay down for the night. She's tired. She needs rest. But he does not want to hear that. And his response is very violent. He repeatedly punches her in the face. Her nose bleeds and blood splatters across the hotel wall. And when he turns the lights on and sees it, he grabs a towel, wets it, wrings it out, brings it to her, and he's cleaning her up, telling her that she can't keep getting drunk and acting out like this. And as if she was not just there for the whole thing, he tells her that she had attacked him and that he was trying to restrain her to keep her from hurting him even more. He then tells her that he forgives her and suggests that maybe she get some help. But he reassures her that even still, he will remain to stick by her side like a good husband, because he cares about her, wants her to get better, and he does not want to see her continue to hurt herself like this. Then he goes back to the party to finish his night. And Morgan is like, girl, what? Now, remind you, they're on a trip with friends. So the following morning, when everyone sees her face, they're alarmed. But of course, Rodney has a story. He offers them the explanation that she had done this to herself while he was holding her down, trying to get her to stop hitting him. And of course, they do not buy it. They offer Morgan support, ask her what really happened, and she refuses to admit that what he was saying was not true and that he had actually done this to her. So this friend group decides to kind of back off away from the couple after this trip. And after returning home from this trip, every time that he becomes upset, Morgan is now afraid that he might put his hands on her. One night, Morgan refuses his sexual advance, and he basically tells her that she does not have the right to turn him down as his wife, that these are her duties to perform, and forces himself on her. And this is the moment where Morgan realizes that no, okay, this is not the typical workings of a household, okay? Something is very wrong here in our dynamic. She files for divorce and takes the children to live with her parents for the time being, and Rodney begs and pleads for her to return home and give him another chance. When she stops answering the phone for him, he shows up at her parents' house in the driveway demanding that she allow him to see their children, telling her that she does not have the right to keep them from him. He is begging for her to come home, and her parents are begging for him to leave their home. Okay, he doesn't want to. After he is out there for hours and refuses to leave, they decide to call the police. But when the police show up, they basically tell Rodney that he has to leave the driveway, but he does not have to leave the street. So he backs his car out of their driveway onto the street and continues to harass her from there for hours until he finally decides that he wants to go home. I don't know if he got hungry. The next time that she sees Rodney, he tells her that he will sign the divorce papers. However, he is still confident in his ability to win her back. He agrees to move out of the house so that she can have it for herself and the children. And aside from his delusions that he still has a chance or deserves a second chance, Rodney appears to kind of be coming around a little bit, or backing off, I should say. He leaves the house, and Morgan and the children return to the home just before Halloween. She makes plans for her parents to come over to the house with her and the children to pumpkin carve and have a good old time. The day is going great. Everyone is enjoying themselves. In the midst of their pumpkin carving, in walks Rodney, uninvited. Now he comes in like David Ruffin came in to perform Ain't Too Proud to Beg at the Coca Cabana. He is acting all excited to see the children. They're excited to see him. They hug him, and Morgan waits a minute before, she shuts it down. After the children have said what they needed to say to their father, she politely pulls him to the side and let him know that this is breaking and entering, okay? This is not okay. He gets very angry and he leaves. But when Thanksgiving rolls around, he pulls the exact same stunt, and it goes literally the exact same way. After this time, Morgan changes all of the locks to the house. She makes sure that all of their windows are locked and secured. She has the security systems changed and upgraded, and there are cameras added all around the home, both on the inside and the outside. And this seems to do the trick. There are no more pop-ups from Rodney. Child, if he did, he couldn't get in. Then Morgan one day randomly receives an email from Rodney saying that there's a very strong possibility that he has pancreatic cancer. He expresses to her that he is very afraid and that he feels alone, and she doesn't have to take him back romantically, but he could really use her support during such a time. And despite all that he has done to her, Morgan feels that he is the father of her children. They are still family, and they've had such a long history together, and for those reasons, she does want to be there for him. She allows him to return to the house temporarily, and she lets him know that this is not them getting back together. He is to sleep on the couch, and there is no possibility of reconciliation. She simply wants him to feel loved and surrounded by his children. But of course, over the following weeks, Rodney makes several attempts to work his way back into Morgan's head and her heart. And unbeknownst to her, he has also been manipulating her security system. He begs Morgan to give him the opportunity to show her that he is now a changed man. And when she says no and that her mind was not going to change, he decides to leave the house. On New Year's Eve, he texts her, pressuring her to just give him one date, let him take her out to dinner. And then one date at a time, he will show her that he is worthy of another chance. Again, Morgan tells him that she can't accept his date, that she's already made plans to spend this evening with her parents. In reality, she has plans to enjoy a nice evening home alone without the children, who will be spending the night at her sister's. But that ain't none of his business, okay? And furthermore, she never wants to tell him that she'll be home alone, right? Once the children are gone, she settles in to watch a movie. She turns out all of the lights inside of the house. She sets the security system, or so she thinks, and gets comfy on the couch. But all of a sudden, she has this eerie feeling that somebody is watching her. And it goes on far too long for her to continue to ignore. So she gets up, looks outside, but it's dark and she cannot see a thing. At this point, she tries to shake off this uneasy feeling, telling herself that she's being ridiculous, that she's just paranoid because she's here at the house by herself and it's dark, and there's really no real reason to be afraid. It's just all in her head. After the movie goes off, she goes to bed, but it is not long before she's awakened. And not by a sound, but by that overwhelming feeling again that she is being watched. When she peers over at her doorway, she can see this big, dark, shadowy figure standing there facing her. Morgan screams as loud as she physically can, and this shadowy figure, whoever it is, instantly jumps on top of her, hands her down, and puts a gun to her head. This person has on all black. They have on gloves and a mask that covers their entire head. So she can't really see any part of them. The voice sounds very unnatural, very deep, kind of like Batman. Y'all know Batman got that creepy, deep voice thing going on. He tells her that she has messed with the wrong people and now she will pay, and asks her where does she keep her jewelry. She tells them that she doesn't have any jewelry, and in this moment she's trying to recall all the tips that Rodney had given her in the event that something like this had happened and he wasn't there. But with everything that she tries, it seems as though this person is one step ahead of her. His face is covered. She can't see the eye color. She tries to scratch his arms and get a glimpse of his skin color there, but he has on long sleeves that are tucked inside of his long gloves, so there's no way that she can apply any of this. He hits her a couple of times with the butt of the gun and zip ties her hands. He then pushes her face into the pillow and holds her there while she is struggling to breathe. And right before she passes out, he lifts her head and allows her to take breath. Afterward, he kind of stumbles back, almost as if he couldn't believe what he had done, like he was having a change of heart or something like that. But after a couple of seconds, he pulls himself together, grabs her up from the bed, and places a pillowcase over her head. He walks her out onto the back deck of the house, pushes her down onto the wood, and tells her again that she has messed with the wrong people and she's made a terrible mistake. And she is telling this person that she doesn't even know what people he's talking about or what she could have possibly have done to offend them. She's crying, she's very emotional, very afraid. And then the person tells her that she better not move from where she currently is sitting until she hears 3 car horn honks. And if she moves before then, she will receive a shot to the face. She agrees and she hears the person's footsteps leaving. She waits for the car horn, but she doesn't hear anything. Minutes pass, still no car horn, nothing. But she is afraid to get up before she hears it because she doesn't know if they're still there. She doesn't know how many people were there. The pillowcase is over her head and it's dark out, so she can't see a thing. And she does not want to risk her life. So instead, she just decides to lay down and wait. After a while though, instead of hearing the 3 car horn honks, she hears footsteps approaching her again. The footsteps stop and it's silent. So she just waits. And then all of a sudden she hears Rodney's voice say, "Oh baby, what happened?" He removes the pillowcase from her head and he is looking so concerned. He's standing there asking her repeatedly, like, what happened? Who had done this to her? And she asks him if it was him that had done this to her. And he's like, no, of course not. I was at home. I was minding my business. And all of a sudden I heard a couple of taps on my window and I heard them say your name and that you were in trouble. But I couldn't quite make out any of the other details. I just came as quick as I could. And then she asked them, well, how did you know I was here and not at my parents' house? Because remind you, she had told him she was spending the night with her parents. Rodney stumbles for a second and he tells her he didn't think it through and that his natural first instinct was to come to the house. At this point, Morgan realizes that it's probably in her best interest to just go along with whatever his story is for the moment. She suggests that they call the police. He gets a blanket to wrap around her and tells her that he'll call the police, which he does call 911, tells dispatch that they had suffered a break-in at the house, but then he tells dispatch that it's no big deal, that there would be no reason or need for officers to come out. However, they send out police officers anyway, and he tells them the exact same story about someone tapping on his window and saying, "Drop everything, come quick, Morgan's in trouble." And then he got here and he found her roughed up on the deck with the pillowcase over her head. The officers straight up tell him that this sounds like BS. They separate the two. They ask her if she felt like he was capable of something like this, and she tells the officer yes, and also tells them that he was supposed to be under the impression that she was at her parents' house. Meanwhile, he is out there completely taken aback by the officers questioning the validity of his story. When they go to Rodney's home, they find a pack of the same zip ties that had been applied to Morgan, and his computer had been used to search different ways to kill someone. If that was not damaging enough, he had written and left behind a letter that was addressed to Morgan explaining his feelings, another letter that was his self-deletion note. So it was very obvious to them that he had plans of taking her out as well as taking himself out, when he could have just started with him. Rodney finally gives up his act and pleads guilty to 14 charges, including kidnapping and assault. And in August of 2021, he is sentenced to 25 years in prison and another 45 years of probation after his release. He is eligible for parole after 20 years, depending on his behavior. But Morgan does plan to attend his parole hearing to object to his release and throw a little salt on his name, as she should. But still, them having young children together and him not being in jail for really that long, it's very possible that they'll have to see each other again if, of course, the children choose to have a relationship with him. But y'all, hopefully, I don't know, hopefully not. Like, hopefully she won't have to see him if that's the case, is what I'm saying. No one died today. I'm glad. And that pretty much wraps up today's video. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Like the video, share with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, we mess up a lot. I have literally been sitting here preparing to film for like forever. Blue has been asleep the entire time, but he has just now begun to snore. What was I even gonna say? Y'all, I have to go get myself together for this Beyonce show in a couple days, so I'm not going really Blue. 15-year-old Morgan I was gonna say Reeds. Unbeknownst to Morgan, and once who was Megan girl? Morgan. Thought that that is what they actually and the kids are like, of course, Now Rodney often brings all of like the news. That is not like those weren't the words in my mind. Now I've forgotten the words that were there. Guess we rolling with news, baby. Now Rodney often brings like the latest events and news. Current events was the word. And one day he informs her, reassuring her that even so, and they've had such a long history, bruh. Wrong subject. He begs her to give him the opportunity to show her. Did I say that right? He begs Morgan to give her, I thought using the names was gonna keep me more on track, child. He did worse. Now in reality, she is just enjoying her After the movie, she waits for the car beep. What is it called? Is it a car horn for real? And 45 years of probation. Kind of, not someone to catch fire.